What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Hockeytown University. You are here with me and my lovely co-hosts once again, Zack and Matt, and we are missing one, Derek. He is at a wedding for his sister. Congratulations! Hope you guys have a fantastic wedding. Sounds amazing. Wish we were invited, but we unfortunately did not make it on a VIP list, buddy. But how's your weekend? How was your week? Now that we're down to one episode a week, waiting for hockey to start, eh?
Oh, my week was fine. Just, a lot of the same, but I had a pretty good weekend. Yesterday, we spent pretty much all day outside in the sun. I took my girlfriend up on a little day trip to Midland, Michigan. We went to Dow Gardens, which was definitely on my long list of things to do in the summer for a long time. So I'm happy we got to do that finally. That place is absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend anyone if they're looking for like just a day trip to do in the summer in Michigan, go on up there and just be in nature, just smell the flowers. We're in a period where sports kind of just have ceased to exist. So I suppose while that's happening, don't be inside on your couch. Get out, enjoy some sun. I definitely got some sun yesterday, even though it looks like I'm a pale poltergeist of a man. I don't know why that's not showing up on camera, but definitely got a lot of sun. So that was pretty fun. And other than that, it's just business as usual. Same old, same old. Just we're in the real dog days of summer, dog days of the off season. But we do have some news to talk about today. So that's a real nice thing.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, we got plenty of news, especially around the league news. A lot of things are happening. So let's start with the biggest one, right? So we'll talk about the around the league news, some Red Wings news, talking about the World Junior showcase that they had in Plymouth, Michigan. And then obviously based on the title, we'll talk about high and low moments of the Red Wings rebuild and when it should have started, honestly. Whether if you agree that it started with Yzerman or Ken Holland should have said, forget the 25-year streak of making the playoffs and let's just start this thing. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Erik Karlsson was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins about half an hour ago. We're recording at
Something like that.
1:07 p.m. currently right now. So let's go ahead and jump right into that, Matt. Erik Karlsson traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins, $1.5 million retained, 13% from his $10 million. The Pittsburgh Penguins also got Dylan. Oh boy, Matt, you might have to help me out here.
Don't
Hamaliak,
look at me. I don't never heard of the guy in my life.
AHL junior contract, it looks like. And then they received a 2026 third round pick from San Jose. And then they also should have mentioned this. So it's a 3-team deal, including Montreal. And then from Montreal, they also received Rem Pitlick, $1.1 million contract. San Jose from Montreal ended up getting Mike Hoffman, $4.5 million deal. From Pittsburgh, Mikhail Granlund, not Michael Granlund, Mikhail Granlund, $5 million contract. Jan Ruda, $2.75 million contract. 2024 first round pick, which is conditional. The condition is top 10 protected. And then Montreal got Jeff Petrie, 25% retained. So his contract comes in at $4.687 million. I was going to say the $500 too, but we can X-nay on that. Casey DeSmith, $1.8 million. Nathan Loray, I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm not Canadian. I don't
I,
know.
I
And
can't
then
even see that on my screen. The trade is so long; it cut off the bottom part.
it's a lengthy trade. And then a 2025 second round pick from Pittsburgh. Initial reactions, Matt. From me, I guess I think Pittsburgh won this trade. I also think that Montreal won the trade. San Jose, I think that they could have gotten more, but they didn't really have too much leverage. Just the same thing with Alex DeBrincat, right? Initial
Yeah.
reaction.
Well, yeah. This is a Pittsburgh win by a country mile. Like, not only did they get a the most recent Norris winning defenseman who also just put up 100 points, what hasn't happened since the 90s. I don't see how Pittsburgh isn't the biggest winner in this trade. Because not only did they get Erik Karlsson, they also unloaded at least one really bad contract. And they kind of corrected that mistake that the old regime had by signing Granlund, which was just a bad deal from the get go. And of course, they get rid of Jan Ruda, who is really not like anything special. Like he's looks like he's kind of bounced around the league ever since starting out in Chicago. So from the standpoint of the Sharks, this is I don't know. It's a very confusing deal for them because it doesn't seem like they got much back of any consequence other than a first round draft pick. Like as I said, they got Granlund, they got Ruda. These guys are pretty much non-factors at the NHL level. Like they really don't contribute anything. You ask any Pittsburgh Penguins fan, they will not have anything nice to say about Granlund. They knew that it was a mistake the minute that I think he was traded at the trade deadline. I don't even remember how they got him, but anyways, I'm sure Pittsburgh is very happy to get rid of him, and it was necessary because, jeez, I mean, they had just absolutely zero cap space to make this move happen, and luckily, for whatever reason, San Jose said, "Yeah, we'll take that." Um, so I don't know. I think we kind of knew building up to this that it was going to be Pittsburgh or Carolina, either one of those two teams. I remember hearing rumors about this pretty much the whole off season. I feel like it was even after like the draft is when this talk kind of like started picking up a bit. And this is, everything that I've said. I haven't even mentioned Montreal yet. They got rid of a bad contract too, and Mike Hoffman. And they get Jeff Petrie back, which I'm sure they're not overly excited to get him back, but whatever. I think he's got 2 or 3 more years left on his contract. He's a veteran defenseman, so he'll help out those young guys like Gooley and that one guy with the weird name that I can't think of right now. But yeah, and then more than that, they got Casey DeSmith. I think we pretty much all know what Casey DeSmith is at this point. He's not really the best goaltender, especially not a good backup, but who knows? Maybe that's a decent reclamation project that they can work on. And you can never have too many goalies. You really can never have too many backup plans. So I think overall, with my whole rant, I think I'm going to say that Pittsburgh is by far the winner of this trade. And, they didn't really get San Jose to retain all that much, but that's fine. I mean, San Jose has a lot of cap space, and they retained just enough to get the deal to work. And I think if Erik Karlsson being on this team with Malkin, Crosby, Letang, and I guess Gensel won't be on there for the beginning of the season. He's out for 10 or 12 weeks of ankle surgery. But, come playoff time, I kind of expect now with this move done that this is going to be a playoff team. At least they're going to be pushing for the playoffs. I don't see them screwing it up at the end of the season and, basically leading up to a team's number 1 overall pick. I don't think it's going to happen again. Who knows? Maybe they have another one last kick at the can while Malkin and Crosby are still there. I think this might be the missing piece for them. They get some decent goaltending. They can make some noise. Metro isn't really strong right now, so I will begrudgingly say that I really like this for Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And for Red Wings fans, this kind of sucks because now looking at it, this could potentially kick them out of a wild card spot, right? The Pittsburgh Penguins could make a top 3 in their own division now, having 100-point getting defenseman on their team, on top of having Chris Letang playing on the right side, so it's going to be tough for us looking at it that way. Well, other than the fact that he's now a Pittsburgh Penguin, I love EK. Now I have to hate him because I hate the Pittsburgh Penguins with a burning passion, thanks to 2008, 2009. Looking at it in this perspective too, Erik Karlsson still has 4 more years left on his deal. Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm kind of surprised that San Jose didn't retain more, but they also took on $2.75 million from Pittsburgh, and they're taking $4.5 million from Montreal. That's a lot of money. Yeah, I didn't look at Mike Hoffman's contract, but Mikael Granlund has 2 more years. Jan Ruda has 2 more years. Okay, so Mike Hoffman is in his last year of his deal. So that kind of helps him out, right? So they lose that contract next year. For Pittsburgh, they're like, okay, just take this for 2 more years, this $7.75 million. Just take that for 2 more years. In San Jose's aspect of it, their way of thinking could be that all we have to do is just kind of hope. Well, not even hope, because that's basically what I was going to say is maybe that they pray that Erik Karlsson just does what they did to San Jose, right? Where he kind of wasn't really fitting in, wasn't putting in too many numbers because of having Brent Burns as well on their team. I mean, With the 5 years that he was with the team, his first season, 45 points and 53, 40 points and 56, 22 and 52, 35 and 50, then just exploded out of nowhere, 101 in 82 games, which is insane, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember the last time we saw a defenseman put up that many numbers. It's probably been a really long time, right?
It really was otherworldly, like how much he turned his career around. And even more so, like this was probably the least amount of talent he's ever played around. Like
Yeah.
I can't like other than Mark Edward Vlasic, who else is on that blue line? I mean, that's just the defense. Who's on the forward group? Like he pretty much did this all on his own.
Yeah, and let's go back to your Carolina point, right? Is that I guess rumor came out saying that Burns and Karlsson weren't exactly always on the same page, especially in terms of like special teams, because they both play the same position, right? Right-handed D, so like you had to swap one or the other, or have them both on the same line. So they weren't connected very well in that aspect. So I wonder if that was part of the reason. And maybe Erik Karlsson said, "No, I don't want to go there because of Brent Burns. I could be just blowing smoke out my butt saying that, but." I could definitely see where that kind of created an issue, and maybe Carolina just didn't want to put themselves in a position where they have to have a $10 million player for the next 4 years on their team. That's a lot of money. I mean, granted, you're getting that 100 point getter if he can continue to produce that. You just never know. Carlson's what, 33, 34 years old, 33, I believe. Take him until he's 34 or 34, 37, 38 years old. I mean, in hockey, I mean, it's not kind to anyone when you get up into that age, right? So it's going to be tough for Pittsburgh. I mean, they're stuck with that $10 million contract now. So good luck to them. I mean, you got Sidney Crosby, you got Evgeny Malkin, you have Chris Letang, you have Jake Gensel, who's now out for 12 weeks. So I wonder if that made them push for this trade even more based on that
Uh,
alone.
yeah, possibly. I mean, I kind of feel like they were just going to do this no matter what.
Yeah.
Erik Karlsson definitely does bring you a lot of offense. I think we all kind of know what his defensive numbers are right now. I think if you're a defenseman and you're putting up that kind of offense, your defensive game is going to struggle a little bit. But there was just so many times where it was like maybe like the last few years that the Sharks were in the playoffs. I saw this guy get beat 1-on-1 all the time. Like someone would have a breakaway, he'd be the only defenseman back, and they just blow by him like he's not even there. So I think maybe if you're Pittsburgh and you have Letang, who actually does play really good defense, and you know they have some other guys there like Marcus Pettersson is a good defenseman. Excuse me. I don't think they're really concerned about that. I think they know that Karlsson is the kind of guy that can elevate their team and just chip in a whole lot more offense at the blue line, which they really haven't had that much of. Like they're pretty much only getting it from Letang. So I imagine they're happy about this deal. I really do. I think if you're a Pittsburgh fan, you definitely realize that, you know, by the end of this contract, most likely Malkin and Crosby will also be gone. It's going to be full rebuild time. I mean, it's going to be like you might be worse than you were before you went to the Crosby sweepstakes. That's how bad it's going to be. But I don't think they care. They're just like, you know what? Screw it. For the next 3 years, it's cup or bust. So that's the mentality they have.
Yeah, yeah. And you got to imagine Crosby's got 2 more years left on his contract. You got Malkin left with 3 more years. I'm assuming with Crosby being at 35, Malkin maybe signs a 1 year deal, just takes him into the Erik Karlsson deal once they all finish up. And I'm assuming that Crosby will probably do the same thing, sign a 2 year bridge deal, if that's what you want to call it, 2 year extension, just to take it until all those contracts come off the books, right? Because in 4 years, let's see, one, two, three, four, they will have almost $56 million that they can utilize at their cap expense. In 3 years, they'll have 40, almost just under $47 million. That's a lot of money that they can utilize and still build around to keep contending for those cups, right? As much as I hate to say it, I don't want them to win any more cups. Stop it, please.
I mean,
Let
I hear
other
you
teams
there.
like us make it into the playoffs for once. That whole
Yeah.
entire division is going to be tough now. I mean, like even the wild card spots. I mean, you're looking at teams like Carolina still, New Jersey, New York. You can even toss in the Islanders in there with a healthy Matt Barzell, and you
No,
have a Bo
you
Horvat.
can't. They fucking stink.
Maybe the second wild card spot. Who
Never
knows?
know.
But then like the Metro and Atlantic, the Eastern Conference by far is definitely the hardest conference in the NHL. I don't care what anyone says. You can't deny the fact the amount of talent. While yes, you do have a Nathan McKinnon, you do have a McDavid, you do have a Draisaitl over there, and a Jack Eichel. But in my personal opinion, it's always much closer in the divisions and the conference standings over in the East than it is in the West. Now let's kind of go back, Matt. So with this trade, do you think this affects the Red Wings making it into a wild card spot at all for this year in the playoffs?
Indirectly, maybe it does. I think if you're the Red Wings, you're more concerned about just beating Ottawa and Buffalo and finishing ahead of them.
Yeah.
I don't think it. I mean, if Pittsburgh was in our division, then yes, I would say that they're concerned about this. But the Red Wings are going to be playing Ottawa, Buffalo. I mean, not even just those two teams, the whole Atlantic, a lot more than they'll play the Penguins.
Right.
So I think they're more concerned just winning their division games and just trying to finish as high as they can. I mean, if Detroit comes out and they really surprise people and they're like this all of a sudden reinvented team they should be competing a lot more. If they can grab a divisional spot, they don't give a shit what Pittsburgh is doing. They don't care if they make the wild card because we'll be sitting in third or fourth place or whatever. So it definitely does. It impacts the wild card race, I will say, for pretty much every team, not necessarily just the Red Wings. Like, I think if you're an Ottawa fan, if you're a Buffalo fan, an Islander fan, whoever else, you're looking at this and you're like, well, shit, we got a lot more work to do all of a sudden now. So I really feel like it doesn't directly impact us that much.
For sure. No, it'll be tougher for us to make it into a wild card spot, but that's where the Red Wings have to sit down and say, just make the third spot. That's all you have to do. Make it a challenge. Yeah, you're right. We have to beat out the Sens and we have to beat out the Buffaloes of the world, right? Even the Tampa Bays. It's going to be tough for us to beat out, the Florida Panthers, maybe even the Boston Bruins. You all already watched the last episode. Hopefully you did. If you haven't, go ahead and watch that because we talk about our divisional standings that we predicted. All three of us did, Matt, Derek, and I. So go ahead and watch that if you haven't already. But before I continue, I forgot to mention this in the intro. Thanks for joining us once again if you're returning. If you are new to watching us, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? Why don't you go ahead and smash that like button? It turns the frown upside down. We don't have an octopus today, but smiles all around. All right. Follow us on Twitter too. Go ahead and rate us wherever you listen to us. If it's on Spotify, go ahead and rate us 5 stars as well. All right. So, Matt, let's go ahead and move on to the next deal that was dealt this week. Let's talk about Troy Terry, who signed with the Anaheim Ducks with a 7x7. That takes him until the 29-30 season. His movement, no trade clause, kicks in 25-26. AAV, like I said, it's $7 million all the way around. No playing bonus, no signing bonus at all. So straight up cash hold for him with some taxes taking out. And looking at Troy Terry, I mean, you said he was a stud when I said in our group chat, I was kind of like on the fence with it. He's 25 years old. Let me actually scroll up here. 25 years old, 6 foot, shoots right, 186 pounds. And when I said that, it kind of scared me a little bit. It's not because I don't think that he's a good player. I think it's because the Anaheim Ducks are still just a very young, fresh team. I don't know what Troy Terry has more in store for him, but looking back at the 21-22 season in 75 games, he put up 37 goals, freaking insane, 30 assists, 67 points. Then this past season, 23 goals, so quite a dip there. 14 goals, that's quite a significant dip. 38 assists, so at least he was dishing the puck a little bit more. 61 points he finished out at. Overall, his career in 274 games, 75 goals, 101 assists for 176 points. Initial reaction to the contract deal.
So I do think that this is a good contract. I really don't think it's that much of an overpay. I mean, you talked about his stats right there. I'm going to go even further back. Pretty much since 2017 when he got drafted, or no, he got drafted in 2015, sorry, but 2017 he made the team in Anaheim. So, the following year, 13 points, 15 points, 20 points. I think people were probably looking at him and they're saying like, well, is this guy really going to work out? Kind of when I look back at that, I kind of have some flashbacks to Philip Zadina. And I think to myself, is this guy really going to break out? Then he does break out. 21-22, he gets 37 goals, just like you mentioned. So I really feel like Troy Terry has kind of arrived, and he's in his prime right now. He is
Yeah.
sorry, let me look at his age. He's 25 right now. So
Yeah.
yeah, he's firmly in his prime. So what you're seeing from him this year, that's probably what you're going to see for most of this contract, maybe like with the exception of the last 2 or 3 years. But this is a contract that makes sense for the Ducks because
Yeah.
they are a team who has pretty much no one signed. Like I think before this they had damn near 30 million in cap space. So this is a deal that absolutely can't afford. And I wouldn't be surprised when Zegras' deal is up that this is going to be a similar one that he's making. Same goes for Mason McTavish. Maybe he make a little bit less. I'm blanking on their young defenseman, Jamie Drysdale. That's who it
Right
was.
though.
He's going to make something like that. And we say it all the time when all these contracts are signed. The cap is going to go up. So once it goes up next season, this is going to look like a really good contract. And Troy Terry definitely seems to be one of those like franchise guys that they're going to fixate on, and that's going to be like he's going to be a big part of their future core when they're hopefully getting more talent in the lineup. Leo Karlsson comes in, maybe some of their defensive prospects pan out, and all of a sudden, maybe in the next 3 or 4 years, they could start competing for the playoffs. So
Yeah.
I do like the deal. I think Troy Terry is a very important player to them, and I think it's good they have him locked up for long term.
Yeah, and for a fifth round draft pick too. Hey, he secured the
Yeah,
bag.
I didn't
Good
even
for
mention
him.
that. Yeah,
That's huge. Honestly, not too
it's
many fifth
good.
round draft picks even get a sniff a contract that's over $3 million. So good on him for actually going through one summer and just said, you know what, I'm gonna be him. And I'm gonna
Yeah,
show him what I can do. Honestly. Yeah, so good on him for doing that. I'm all for it. And like you said, yeah, the Anaheim Ducks just had a boatload of money. Let's see, they still have just over $20 million that they can use at their expense,
yep.
and they still kind of have some room left on their defense. They only have 5 defensemen signed. They still have to sign Jamie Drysdale. Who knows what they're going to do? They still have to sign Trevor Zegras too. Bridge deals potentially just to see how much they can further progress in their development. They're both 21, 22 years old, so plenty of time still. Who knows what the future holds for them? So good on him. Good on Troy Terry. So let's move. Let's bring it down a notch, though, shall we? Let's go to the next one where it's we started with the best, and then we're gonna finish
We
with
did.
the least favorite, right? So let's go ahead and talk about Tom Wilson. And this isn't anything against Tom Wilson. I really like Tom Wilson as a player. This was a player that I would have traded for easily due to his physicality, his size, his shooting. He shoots right. At 29 years old, shoots right, 6'4", 220 pounds, like I just mentioned. Signed, and he has one more year on his contract this year. Movement, no trade clause, $5.166 million. Just signed a pretty lucrative deal, if you ask me. 7 years, $6.5 million. No playing bonuses. He gets signing bonuses every year, anywhere from $2 million to $5 million. So he gets the $5 million next season, goes down to 2 for 3 years, and then goes back up to 4.5, which that's very interesting. I don't know how you start high, go down, and then you go up back to high. So that's pretty strange. But let's go into his stats, right? So the best season he's ever put up was 21-22, 52 points, 24 goals in 78 games. Other than that, he's never put up more than 44 points in a season, where it was in 1920 where it was 44 points in 68 games. Now, like I mentioned before, he is more on the physical side, right? So going back to his second season with the Capitals in 2013-14, 151 PIMs. 2014-15, 172. And it just keeps on going from there. In 2017-18, 187 PIMs. He kind of slowed down a little bit, got a little bit better of not being that kind of guy, where it dropped under the hundreds for a little bit there, barely. And then he had some injuries this year. In 33 games, he put up 22 points. So, Matt, initial reactions on this contract. I personally think it's booty cheeks, 7 years at 29 years old. That takes him until 36. But we're kind of looking at a Caps team that's right about where the Red Wings were in their potential rebuild, right? Where you win a cup, you start not doing so well into the regular season, not making the playoffs this past season. initial reactions on this contract and what it means for the Caps.
Well, so I hate it. I hate this contract. Uh, I don't think that Tom Wilson being a one-time 50-point scorer is ever going to be worth a long-term deal, especially at $6.5 million. We did just say with the Terry deal, the cap's going to go up. That doesn't always mean that a bad contract isn't going to look bad anymore. This will still be bad. It's really actually more bad just because of the term. Like, you have him for 7 years. He's going to spend half that contract suspended. Like, I don't even know. Like, it's funny. Like, I went on Twitter, or I guess it's called X now. Thanks a lot, Elon Musk, you fucking asshole. So I went on there to kind of gauge the temperature around this, and a lot of Capitals fans are happy about this. They're very happy that he's going to be here for the next 7 years. I guess he's a fan favorite. I don't really know much about that. I'm not a Caps fan, but they seem to love him. I saw a lot of takes saying he might be a future captain once Ovi's retired. I mean, I guess I could see that. I don't really know who else you give the captaincy to. Maybe Ryan Leonard. Right. Who knows? But yeah, I don't know if I like this one that much. He's pretty much never played a full season since 16-17. Whether
Correct.
that be through injury, whether that be through a suspension, I would be shocked for these next 7 years if he plays one season in a full 82 games. I really don't think that's going to happen. He will be suspended because of the way that he plays. He will probably get some injuries. So you just look at this from an availability standpoint, it doesn't look that great. But who knows? I think maybe if you're a fan of any other team, you're looking at this and you're making fart noises at it, you think it's awful, and it makes you want to puke in your mouth. But I think if you're a Caps fan, you're happy about it. I think you kind of recognize that, look, the only thing to look forward to in these next few years is Ovi breaking the goals record. Maybe Backstrom plays another season. There's not much else. You look at the Caps, their whole trajectory in the next few years. I imagine when Ovi retires, they're going to be a lottery team. They don't have much to speak of in terms of prospects, although they did clean up pretty nice at the draft this year. And, their core is aging. Who knows how long Oshie has. Kuznetsov, I'm surprised he's still on the team. No one's traded for him, but I don't know how much time he has. So you've pretty much got Tom Wilson. He'll be the last one standing from this core. And, yeah, I don't really know what the future holds for the Caps. I think it's very similar to Pittsburgh, when all those deals are done and all their players retire. But I think Washington gets there first with their rebuild. They don't really have much of a short-term or a long-term future, to be honest. So I don't know. I guess he's an important player for the Caps. I think if we were Caps fans, maybe we'd be a little bit happier about this. But just looking at it from an objective point of view, I don't see how this one is going to age well at all.
In terms of, the only way that I can see and think about it from their perspective is that, I mean, he's always been that shit disturber, right? So
yeah,
you carry him on for the next 7 years, and you keep on bringing up these young players like Ryan Leonard or whoever else that they've drafted or are going to draft in the future. He's going to be the guy who protects those young players and kind of teaches them the ropes, right? So maybe that's the perspective that they're looking at it. That's the perspective that I'm taking from it. But yeah, good luck to them. Honestly, like I said, I like Tom Wilson. When I'm not playing against him, I think he does bring an important role to a team, like I said, and I would love to have him on the Red Wings. But I do think that a 7 by 6.5 is a little too long. It's not so much about the money because, like you said, the cap is going up. I just think by the time that he turns 36, he probably won't be playing every single game in a season due to whether if he's suspended, injured, or whatever it is, just being an asshole on the ice. So pardon my French. Oh my God, I got 2 in today already, and it's not even 30 minutes into the recording there.
I guess what we're trying to say is don't expect much more improvement from him throughout his career. Like, he's pretty much already in his prime. I don't know. The way he plays, he might even already be out of it, if I'm being completely honest. Like, those physical guys, like we just had Bertuzzi on the team. He missed pretty much the entire year. So we know how it goes with these types of players. Like, they'll get
Yeah.
injured, they'll get suspended, and he's just not going to be playing that much, I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong. I'd personally love to be wrong. I do kind of have a soft spot for the Caps because I just hate the Penguins so much. And, seeing Obi win his cup in 2018, that brought a tear to my eye. I was happy about that, but don't think he's going to win any more cups, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe it's just one of those situations where they finally got a summer off to rest, right? I mean, like, same thing with Tampa Bay. You look at it at Tampa Bay's perspective, because I'm kind of nervous to see how they play this upcoming season. It's their first time with a full summer off in the last 3 years. So, the Caps get rejuvenated. Ovi can break that goal scoring record within the next 2 seasons. Who knows? Caps can turn it around. All right, Matt, I think it's time that we can go ahead and jump into some Red Wings news. And we typically start with that, but we figured that these signings and these trades were a little more important because there's not really so much Red Wing news, even though we are a Red Wings podcast. We apologize. But let's go ahead and talk about the World Junior Summer Showcase. So let's go ahead and start with Axel, Sandin, Pellikka. And I'm reading this from Daily Faceoff in their article that they wrote. ASP had a rough start to the tournament, and he was the man that got beat on Lane Hudson's incredible goal on last Monday. I did see that, and ASP kind of went to go poke check a little too many times and kind of got beat a little bit there, but Lane Hudson's a beast, honestly, so I can't even be mad at ASP for that. But he played more like a guy that you would see at the U18 World Championship, campaigning a strong two-way game. And his goal that he scored, Matt, I don't know if you saw it, but he broke through
I
like
did.
a whole entire group of defense, one forward, and it was just chef's kiss. Honestly, freaking enjoyed it. And that's the type of stuff that Red Wings fans can look forward to in the future. And that's what he's going to bring to a Red Wings team in the next 2 or 3 years. I would expect him to be on the roster in 2 years from now. And the other surprise one is Anton Johansson, who was drafted in 22, I believe, 2022 year.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
Actually, I have it pulled up right here. Just give me 1 second. I don't know why it's reloading. Yep, 22 in the fourth round.
There we go.
You're right.
Yep. So I believe he's a right-handed defenseman. I could be wrong. Can you correct me on that?
He does play on the right side. Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, from Daily Faceoff as well, Johansson has been the most consistently impressive defenseman on Sweden for them. He's involved offensively, has gone physical and is blocking shots and clearing the puck out of the zone. He just does everything you'd want a defenseman to do. Simple, solid hockey. So that's great to read, especially from Daily Faceoff. Not to rip on them, I do think that they're a little lackluster in the wording that they use sometimes. Like, they don't go too far in depth, especially with some of these prospects. I think they're a little lackluster in that regard. But looking at the points, let's go ahead and talk about ASP. ASP, in 3 games, he put up 1 goal, no assists. Fine. All right. That's great. Like it said, he kind of had a rough start, so that's okay. But Anton Johansson, quite a surprise. In 4 games, he put up 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. That's pretty good. So you got 2 of your right-handed shooting defensemen in the future, hopefully with Anton Johansson, but this was a good showcase for him. So what are your initial reactions on both of these players, I guess, Matt?
Well, let's start with ASP. I'll just get this out of the way right now. There's a lot of talk about Erik Karlsson today. 65 is not taken in Detroit. So when he joins the team, go right ahead and pick it, buddy. But, you mentioned the Lane Hudson and how he beat him behind the net. And I see a few people freaking out about that. Just calm down, people. I got 2 things for you on that. Number 1, this is just a showcase. Win, lose, or draw, it really doesn't matter. You're just out there to show your team, respectively, and really the rest of the league what you can do and what is to come throughout your NHL career. Number 2, did we really think he was going to make the team this year? Like, come on, the kid's 18. He's going to play in the SHL, and he's going to get a whole hell of a lot better playing against men. So let's just simmer down.
Temper.
Just calm down. I'm not expecting him to break into the league, win the Calder and the Norris in the same season, but this guy is going to be something special. I mean, you just talked about that goal. If our audience has not seen that goal, I highly encourage you. I think it's on like Ice Hockey Gifts on Twitter. It's probably on Twitter somewhere.
I think
go look it up. It's absolutely filthy.
Yeah,
So,
if you're not following us on Twitter, go ahead because we do retweet, quote
oh
tweet
yeah, you post that
a
too.
lot of the Red
Yep.
Wings prospect stuff and just Red Wings stuff in general. So go ahead and check that out. But go on, Matt. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and then as far as Anton Johansson goes, really surprising player. I didn't really think he had that level of offense in him. I think when guys are really young and they're defensemen and they're playing in the SHL, let me just pull up his numbers real quick.
Yeah.
So when he was playing for this team, I'm going to butcher their names. This is probably not right at all. When he was playing for Lexans in the SHL this season, he only got one goal. I think when you're playing in the SHL and you're a young defenseman, you're not really expected to score or do anything of that sort. So I think people looking at him, they're like, well, is this guy really ever going to be anything? Like, how much upside does he have? Was he only taken because we just need any warm body who can play on the right side? I think he might be something special. Or not something special. I think he'll be serviceable. I think he's just got a lot of developing to do.
Yeah.
That's fine. You know, he's probably going to be another Albert Johansson, which is funny enough because he's pretty much had the same name as him. But yeah, I was definitely impressed by him. I think he's a guy this next season that I think we should all watch pretty closely. I think he might have a big year in the SHL. So I'm really happy to see both our guys. You know, it was a nice showcase. I don't really know how much you can read into this showcase to predict how much success a player is going to have, but they look decent overall.
Yeah. Yeah. And going backwards, kind of following along with you what you said. Yeah. I mean, he got to play in 21 games in the SHL for Lexans IF this season. Only put up one goal, 1 point. One thing that's interesting to me, though, when he played for the J20 in the J20 National League, in 32 games, he put up 13.6 goals, 7 assists. Okay. 94 PIMs.
Yeah.
94. That's a lot. That
Mm-hmm.
is a lot. I'm assuming that he's probably going to start in the J20. I think that league starts a little bit sooner to get a little couple games looks at him, and then I do think that he probably makes the team in the SHL for Lexans and sticks with them for quite some time. So good on him. I hope that he does become a little shit disturber for us as well. Hopefully he can be a bottom pairing right-handed defenseman for us. That would be great. We're kind of building up in that prospect pool. Our defense is just stacked. So
Yeah.
good looks on him, honestly. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our next topic, which is directly into our title of our episode. Let's go ahead and talk about some highs and some low moments in the Detroit Red Wings rebuild. Matt, I don't even know where to begin, man. I mean, there's definitely been a lot of highs, but I feel like that there's definitely been a lot more lows. Um, and I'll be pretty quick about it. I think the highs for me would have to be Dylan Larkin becoming the captain and continuing his ability to produce and get better over time, just his development as a not only just as a player, but a leader, getting groomed by Henrik Zetterberg. And then I would say a good low for me. Ooh, see, this is the one that keeps on tripping me up. I would definitely have to say, I would have to say, well, I guess I got two. Two lows for me would be when, okay, one high, another high for me, I guess I should start off with is the Steve Yzerman signing, right? Back in 2019. That's a huge high, right? Like that definitely showed that like the first initial rebuild, quote unquote, the first one, right? With Ken Holland still in charge of the general manager position,
Mm,
horrible, right?
yeah.
And it was just a clear direction saying like, okay, this rebuild is not working. We need to start over once again. Adding Steve Yzerman was a huge high, and he's done nothing but progress us up ever since then, right? So two lows for me that I would say would be Jeff Blashill continuing to still be the coach once Steve Yzerman came in and extended him to be the coach until Derek Lalonde came in. I do think that, granted, there probably wasn't another coach that wanted to be in a position where I want to coach a team that's going to go to the bottom of the barrel of the league and tank, right? Not too many coaches want to be put in that type of situation. Granted, understanding that they might be with the team for a long period of time, moving upward. But then my second one would probably have to be one of the trades that we ended up making with the Washington Capitals trading away Anthony Mantha, who supposedly was supposed to be part of this rebuild, and getting someone named Jacob Verana. And we never really got to fully see what he could have done for our Detroit Red Wings team, and we ended up trading him to the St. Louis Blues. Um, that's pretty quick for me, honestly. Like, I don't know if you guys really want me to go too in depth, but I would love to hear from you, the viewers, some highs and lows from you guys from the Red Wings. There's definitely a lot that I'm missing, but to me, those are the ones that stick out right now. Granted, I really didn't have too much time to really think about them, but Matt, buddy, how about you? Let me hear your highs and your lows from the Red Wings rebuild, and it could be from the Ken Holland era, or it could be even as early as last season. Let's hear it, buddy.
Well, for the highs, I think we can start at the beginning. Steve Yzerman getting hired.
Yeah,
Honestly, that might be the official start of the rebuild because Ken Holland was just, pooping his own pants. Like, he wasn't even really helping us. Every prospect that he drafted in the first round, from Dennis Cholowski, Philip Zadina, Svechnikov, they did nothing for us. They took no big steps in their development. Their development was pretty much ruined by Ken Holland because he had to thrust them into the lineup because no one else was here. Um, yeah, so Steve Yzerman taking over and really just dismantling Ken Holland's team, building up his own. That honestly might have to be the highest point of the rebuild because that was just kind of saying like, okay, we're going to take a clear direction. This obviously isn't working. If we keep going with Ken Holland, this team won't be good until 2040. Let's go ahead and bring probably, I mean, I'll say he's our best player in franchise history. I know a lot of people would disagree and say Gordy, but I think he might be the most important and best player in our franchise history. And they say, you know what, he's the right guy for the job of general manager. Let's go ahead and bring him in. And, obviously we're not there yet, but every season we're getting closer. His track record kind of speaks for itself, not only here in Detroit, but in Tampa Bay. Uh, yeah, so that's my high point. I do have a few more, but that's the best one. Another high point, this might be a bit of recency bias, but just how well the Wings were playing, kind of like halfway through the season where we had like that 6 or 7 game winning streak and we were in a wild card spot. Like this year was the closest we've been to the playoffs. And I think a lot of people were looking at this team and saying like, wow, they could actually do it. In the stacked Atlantic division, they might actually make the playoffs. And then that also kind of brings me into my other low point. The 2 Ottawa games, that really hurt. That really showed this team and really the fans too that we're just not there yet. We really thought we could be and we could compete and actually make some noise and make a wild card spot. And that really just took all the wind out of our sails right there. So that was pretty tough. I guess another low point would have to be 1920. It goes without saying. I don't really need
yeah,
to rehash that. Our top line forward was like Adam Ernie. Let's just not get into that. We don't need to do that. Um, but then, I'd say my last high point for this video would be it's kind of a few, all the guys coming in that Yzerman has drafted, Seider taking a prominent role in his rookie season, Lucas Raymond making the team out of camp, and then he took a prominent role. And, Seider winning the Calder too. That's a high point.
yeah.
Raymond's, I think he finished like 4th in Calder voting. So, if the committee didn't realize that Michael Bunting was 65 years old, maybe he also could have finished in the top 3. So, yeah, that was really, really exciting to see. And now we're going into year 3 of those players, and it's looking like they're both going to take a big step. At least I hope they do, but I think they will. And then, of course, Edmondson making the team. Casper got that 1 game. So really all of our recent high round prospects making the team and kind of doing like a promising audition and kind of showing the coaching staff and management staff that they're going to make noise this next season and they really should be in the lineup. That's really nice to see. So I definitely think that there's some high points to take away. Obviously, with a rebuild, they're not always perfect. They'll have setbacks. There's low points. But I think overall, they're making significant progress. This, this year honestly is proof of that. Just them actually playing meaningful games going into March. That's really promising to see. I do hope they keep that up and they can honestly have a longer streak of doing that. I think maybe the best thing that we've seen in the recent seasons is the team is getting a lot more competitive. While they may not be like this high end offensive team that I don't know, like a Buffalo is, a Tampa is. I mean, even the Senators score a lot, but then they also let in more than they score, so they stink. But yeah, just the team getting more competitive and kind of just fighting for every point, every win, and just showing that they belong there. I really hope we see more of that, and I think we will.
No, for sure. There's definitely going to be a lot more highs than there are going to be lows. I mean, looking back at it too, like there were 2 years ago, you remember, I mean, there were plenty of blowout games, right?
Oh
10,
yeah,
10 to 2 or whatever the scores were, right? Or 10 to 7 against Toronto. Those crazy games like that, right? Like we didn't really see too many of those last season. So that's great. That's definitely a high
no,
in that regard. While some of those might have been losses still, but it's good to see that we're not getting blown out much like we were before in previous seasons, these last 3 to 4 seasons that we've had. But this is a good segue into the next topic, right, Matt? So, at what point should the rebuild have started, in our opinions? Um, and I have a couple tabs pulled up here looking at Pat, looking at the playoffs that the Red Wings made, we know that the Red Wings are infamous for their 25-year playoff streak, right? So we won the Cup in 2008, lost in the Cup Finals 2009, still hurts to this day. 2010, 2011, we lost in the semifinals. 2012, you lost in the first round. 2013, you kind of bounced back, lost in the semifinals again. And then to 2014, 2016, you lost in the first round. And then that's when our playoff drought then ended right then and there. So for me, looking at this and then looking at some of these old rosters too, to me personally, when I look at these, and I'm going to sit here and say that the year that we drafted Dylan Larkin back in 2014, I feel like that's when the rebuild should have started. To be honest with you, while yeah, you still made it into the playoffs, I think that should have been a clear indicator that change needed to happen, right? So yeah, you drafted Dylan Larkin in 2014, but let's go ahead and look at the roster in 2014. You had Henrik Zetterberg with the most points on the team, 17 goals, 49 assists, 66 points. Pavel Datsyuk right behind him with 26 goals, 39 assists, 65 points. Thomas Tatar, oh my God, blast from the past. Gustav Nyquist, they both put up 56 and 54 point seasons. Justin Abdelkader with 44 points. Nicholas Kronwall with 44 points. Riley Shahan with 36 points. This was a clear indicator that the Red Wings were missing something. While, yeah, you still had your Henrik Zetterberg captain and Pavel Datsyuk, the magician, on your team, this team was lacking talent all around. And then you go and jump up into 2016, 2017. Henrik Zetterberg still on the team, and he still put up 68 points, 17 goals, 51 assists. Gustav Nyquist, 48 points, 20 point difference in that. And that was the season where the Red Wings missed their first playoff run. Now, to me, like I said, I'm going to reiterate, I do think that the Red Wings should have started their rebuild after they drafted Dylan Larkin. While you can sit there and say, well, in 2013, you look back at it, that was the first time that they made a first round draft pick since Riley Shahan back in 2010, where they drafted Anthony Mantha in the first round at number 20. And then you got a infamous player that was recently traded, Tyler Bertuzzi, in the second round, 58th overall. And then, yeah, you go from there. You got Dylan Larkin in 2014. And then just to reiterate the players that you mentioned before, 2015, Evgeny Svechnikov. 2016, Dennis Cholowski. 2017, you got Michael Rasmussen. Still figuring it out, still panning out. So it's good, like that's definitely one of the better Ken Holland picks and Tyler Wright picks that we made. 2018, Philip Zadina, number 6, and then Joe Veleno at 30. One bright spot out of that draft, Jonathan Bergeron. I guess you can throw Jared McIsaac in there. He's still with the system, playing with the Griffins. Hopefully he can kind of figure it out a little bit better. And then that's when it kind of transitioned over to Ken Holland or Steve Yzerman, right? And that's where you kind of mentioned, we need a clear path. We need to go in one direction, and that's rebuild, right? So, looking at it from there, you got Moritz Seider, Albert Johansson, Elmer Soderblom in 2019. You look at 2020, Lucas Raymond, William Wallander, Theodore Niederbach, Cross Hannes, Donovan Sabrango, who was just recently traded, Emil Viro. Those are all players that are still within the system. Keenan Draper, even. Um, then you move on to 2021, more recent, Simon Edvinson, 6th overall. Sebastian Kosa, 15th overall. Shai Buyum, Carter Mazer, Redmond Savage, Liam Dowler Nilsson. I mean, that's great picks right there, right? That's 6 quality picks right there for you. You look at 2022, Marco Casper, Dylan James, Dmitry Buchelnikov, Booch Bombs, Anton Johansson, Amadeus Lombardi. Then you got this most recent draft, Nate Danielson, Axel Sandin Pellikka, Trey Augustine, Andrew Gibson, Brady Cleveland, Noah Dowler Nielsen. I mean, these are phenomenal picks. While, yes, we were hitting on some of the second round picks, it just wasn't a clear direction, though, in Ken Holland's part. So for me, yeah, I'll reiterate again for the third time. I think 2014, once you drafted Dylan Larkin, you probably should have sat there and said, what's more important, getting good players to help your team in the future or continuing a playoff streak that truly isn't there? Because then you went on to another 2 seasons of just getting knocked out of the first round. And I could be wrong. I don't know if all 3 years were by Tampa Bay, but I believe that the 15 and 16 year were by Tampa Bay. And it was just nuts, right? Like we were just obliterated because the lack of talent that we had just truly shined, right? Like it was there. And I say shine, I mean it was mud. Just gross, dirt, filth, scum, bummy, just horrible. So let's go ahead and hear from you, buddy. When do you think that the rebuild should have started?
Well, so I honestly think the start of the rebuild, I wouldn't be far off from you from the year 2014. I really kind of look at it and, our most important players after that '08 Cup run, we had Henrik Zetterberg, Nick Lidstrom, Pavel Datsyuk. That was kind of like, after '08, I will still maintain that the Red Wings should have, or actually I guess after '09, the Red Wings should have had one more finals appearance. I really feel like they really should have been there one more time because they still had Zetterberg in his prime. Lidstrom was kind of still winding down, but he's a freak in nature, so he was still playing well. And Datsuk firmly in his prime too. I honestly feel like after that last playoff year, they got eliminated by Tampa Bay, and the last few years of the streak, they were just a non-factor anyways, just barely squeaking in.
Mm-hmm.
And after that last year in 15-16, that was also Pavel Datsuk's last year, and that was when he got his contract traded to Arizona.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like, by that point, Lidstrom was gone. He retired in 2013 or 12, something like that. And, after Datsuk was gone, he had Zetterberg, 15-16. I think that was Dylan Larkin's sophomore season, I want to say. I don't know. It's ancient history. But I think at that point, you have Zetterberg, you got Larkin. You got to look at your prospect cabinet and just kind of reassess what direction you want to go in. That was the 25th year of the playoff streak. I kind of feel like Ken Holland and management, and really the coaching staff too, should have looked at this team and said, you know what? We just lost Datsuk. He's pretty much the only reason we even got into the playoffs. We just snuck in. I think that year was like between us and Boston, and it was kind of like a Florida Panthers situation where we needed Boston to lose to get in, and they did. So we got in. So it wasn't even really a playoff streak that we earned. It was just something we kind of fell ass backwards into and just got the shit kicked out of us by Tampa Bay. I think it was like a 5-game series. I think they stole 1 game at home. So, yeah, it was very clear that this team wasn't going to go anywhere in the playoffs. Like, that 1 game was just, it was hard fought. Like, they had to fight tooth and nail to even win that 1 game. So, I think by 15-16, we should have looked at this and said, you know what? Let's shut it all down. Sell off literally anything that's of worth. Give away anything that isn't nailed down to the floor, so to speak. Keep Larkin. Keep Zetterberg because, he's a legend. And by that time, you probably weren't going to get anything for him. And just strip it all down. Rebuild. So that would have meant that 16-17, that would have been our worst year. Do I have? Oh, I do have it pulled up. Okay, so 16, 17. Look at the year 1920 when we were competing for that lottery and move that back a couple years. That would be 16, 17. So we're a lottery team in that year. And, you know, let's just say for the sake of this exercise that the Red Wings still don't have lottery luck and we finish fourth. If we finish fourth in the 2017 draft, we would have got a man by the name of Cale Makar. Okay? Or, we could take the guy who got drafted right after him, Elias freaking Pettersson. I'm happy with that. Are you happy with that, Zach? Cale Makar or Elias Pettersson? Boy, oh boy, would I ever love to have one of those guys on the team. And then, you move on from that year. Maybe the team gets slightly better, but you're probably still going to be poo-poo doo-doo. And you're going to be a lottery team in 2018 too. So you never know. Maybe you win that lottery, you get Rasmus Dahlin, or you get Svechnikov, or you get Brady Tkachuk. I know this is like so much revisionist history, but it's the off season. We have nothing else to talk about. So it's a fun little exercise. Let's do this. And, from then on, you get one of Cale Makar, Elias Pettersson. Sure, why not? And then let's just say for the sake of this, we win that lottery. We get Rasmus Dahlin. There you go. I mean, that's your future core right there. One of Rasmus Dahlin, Cale Makar, or Elias Pettersson. Boy, oh boy, is that a hell of a team.
Yeah.
And, you keep going on. I still kind of feel like in 2019, even if the team is a little bit better and they finish, let's just say they finish above 6th in the draft order, they get to like 9 or 10, I think it still stands to reason they could have taken Mo Seider. I mean, back then he was considered a bit of a reach. I think he was projected in like the middle of the round. And Steve Yzerman is probably still looking at him and they're like, yeah, we want Mo Seider. We really want this guy.
Yeah.
So who knows? If you tear it all down in 15, 16, and you get your future core that I just named off right there, and, I think for our fans out there, they could go through and look at this too. It's honestly kind of a fun exercise to see how good it could have been. We could be sitting here and we're talking about a playoff team. I think it stands to reason that they would have made the playoffs with that core. But, that's just history. That's the way the cookie crumbles. I don't know what to say. If anything, that gives Yzerman coming in something to work with. Yzerman comes in, he's got Cale Makar or Elias Pettersson, Dahlin to work with. So all of a sudden he comes in, and it's kind of similar to when he came into Tampa Bay when he had Stamkos and Hedman. So he's got some good players to work with, and that's also not even to mention Larkin. He'd have Larkin too. So you would have your 1-2 punch center be maybe Pettersson and Larkin. Maybe it wouldn't even be Larkin and Pettersson. So that sounds pretty nice to me. So I really feel like if that could have happened and we really lucked into those players, that's a good foundation to build upon. And it really stands to reason this could be a playoff team this year. I wouldn't even be shocked.
Yeah. Would you then say that we would be ahead of where, in hindsight, if everything went the way that you just mentioned, not saying that like we're 100% certain that we would have drafted those players in those positions, which in hindsight, it would have been nice if we did, if we were in those positions. Would you firmly say that we would be ahead of the Ottawa Senators and the Buffalo Sabres of the world in terms of rebuild?
Yeah, 100% I would, because, Ottawa didn't start the rebuild until 2017. That was after they got eliminated by the Penguins. And Buffalo, they've been rebuilding since the dawn of time. So,
since Vietnam.
I do. I mean, I just said in our hypothetical that we would have won that 2018 lottery and got Rasmus Dahlin. So who knows where Buffalo goes in that lottery? I really do think we'd be ahead of them, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree with you in that regard. Yeah, and it's just so hard too because like it's tough to say because it just all comes down to how Ken Holland managed the team, right? I mean, giving players like Justin Abdelkader those lucrative contracts. You're signing Franz Nielsen to those lucrative contracts, Stephen Weiss to those lucrative contracts. I mean, he just did
Mm-hmm.
not know how to properly build a team in a cap era, and he was able to walk into a franchise that already had two main centerpieces, right? A Connor McDavid and a Leon Draisaitl, and to this day, still no cups with them even. I mean, you look back in the day when the Red Wings were in the running for, oh boy, you might have to Ryan Suter and who was the other
And
player?
Parisi?
Yeah, Zach Parise.
Yeah.
I remember when that was the summer bidding war, and
Mm-hmm.
Ken Holland just like after that, that should have been the tall tale sign that Ken Holland just was out of touch and just could not bring quality free agent players to Detroit anymore. I mean, to this day, even still, like it's still kind of tough, but a lot of players, we've heard players saying it. Why'd you come to Detroit? Steve Eiserman.
Yeah.
Steve Eiserman.
Basically.
They have a good crop of players, young players, good
Yep.
talent. And we never heard that when Ken Holland was the general manager with, oh yeah, I came to Detroit because we have Dylan Larkin, we have Anthony Mantha, we have Double A, Athanasiu, you have Philip Hronik. We never heard any of that, right? So it's a really tall tale sign of how out of touch Ken Holland really is in terms of being a general manager. And it's I'm glad that we did end up going into a good clear direction. We're going on the up and up, like we've mentioned before. But the lows were so low that we weren't even fortunate enough to get a top 3 pick. Imagine if we did, like you said, Rasmus Dahlin, Elias Peterson, Kale McCarr, top 3 picks, top 5 picks. We had one top 5 pick, and we got shanked out of it, technically. I mean, granted, we
Mm-hmm.
got Lucas Raymond, who is a phenomenal player and who I foresee having a good season this year going into his 3rd year. Same with Moritz Seider, but imagine if we did get first overall. We could have had a Timmy Stutzel. You could have had a
Yeah.
Byfield, who is still working his way into the lineup, right? But I do think that he is a regular in the NHL this season. Really young kid in that draft, but it's just what could have been if Ken Holland just sat down and said, "This, this staff that I have right now is not getting it done, and I need to bring in new names, new faces, and I need to bring in new development coaches." I mean, we look at some of these players, like we mentioned, as Evgeny Svechnikov, Dennis Cholowski. Like you said, those 2 players were rushed pretty quickly. Philip Zadina. I still firmly believe that he wasn't rushed enough. I think that if he made the NHL right away, we could definitely see a different type of player. I think that sending him to the AHL and then just sitting there with no talent whatsoever definitely affected him a little bit. But in the same token, you could have said that with the Detroit Red Wings in general as a whole entire team, right? That there definitely was no talent there for him. So I don't even know where else I'm going to go with this because it's giving me flashbacks and nightmares that what could have been if Ken Holland was just a little more competent with his job and helped this team a little bit more other than just Michael Rasmussen and Dylan Larkin. You know, like what was it? Within 1 to 2 years, all the players that like Athanasiu, not even Philip Hronik, he just recently got traded. Athanasiu, Mantha, Cholowski, Zadina, they're all gone.
Mm-hmm.
They're all gone.
Yeah.
Like it is just insane. Like I get it. Like once a GM comes in, like you want it to be your team, but like I didn't expect it to be like this. Like you couldn't even keep more than 3 of them. You couldn't because they just
Yeah.
weren't making it. They weren't fitting in with the system that we Iserman wanted and that we needed to be the next Tampa Bay Lightning. And that's hopefully what we can be for another 20 years in the next 2 to 3 years when we finally make the playoffs or whenever it is. Actually, I lied. It's going to be this year. We're making the playoffs this year. Okay? Please.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you brought up all those horrific contracts that Ken Holland signed because if they started in 15, 16, early 14, like you said, and Ken Holland really committed to stripping everything down, he's not signing an applicator long term. He's not signing Stephen Weiss. He's not signing Erickson. those deals aren't getting
Yeah,
done. Those players are getting dealt more than
I forgot
anything.
about that one. Jonathan Erickson. Oh my
Oh,
god,
it was a brain dead contract from the moment it
that
was signed. But
pylon, man.
yeah, like all those guys that I mentioned, and here's the bad of it: Cronwall probably would have got traded too. Like anyone of value would have got traded because that's just what you do when you decide to do a rebuild. You just, hey, do you have some value? Can I get a fourth round pick for you at least? Okay, good, you're gone. Like that's what you do. You get rid of the guys that have some value, and you just go for it. Pedal to the metal. So yeah, definitely none of those contracts would have been signed, and then maybe still well, Steve Yzerman would come in anyways. Like Steve Yzerman would come in, he wouldn't have to clean up that mess because it wouldn't be there. And I'm happy that you mentioned Steve Yzerman now because that is definitely a big part of why we're so active in free agency. I think a lot of these guys like Andrew Kopp, JT Compher, Oli Mata, dare we say Ben Sherratt and Justin Hall, they come over to Detroit because they look at it and oh hell, Alex DeBrincat. There you go. That's an even better one. Do you
Yeah,
think if Ken Holland was still in charge of the team, Alex DeBrincat would have put Detroit on his short list? No chance in hell.
Ken Holland would have given him an 8 by 10 probably. And granted,
Yeah,
Alex
so actually maybe he
DeBrincat,
would want to come here because he get a
oh,
shit ton of money.
Yeah, DeBrincat probably
Yeah.
does deserve that with some other team, but like for us,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Yzerman did a really good job with that.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Like I think free agents look at this team and they're like, well, they're not the best team right now. And, you know, the two of us, we love Detroit, but let's be honest, Detroit is not the best place to live in if you have a choice of like Florida or LA. But they look at the destination and they're like, well, they've got good management over there. The coaching staff is good.
New
Some good
arena.
young players. I could see this being a spot that I want to be at for the next, I don't know, 4 or 5 years of my career. They're building something and they'll get it done. So I really feel like Eisman being there, that's a really attractive feature of of like a free agent's decision making. Like that's definitely something they put into consideration and they say, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. He'll give me a decent amount of money, but it won't be a gigantic deal. But it's a place that I think all of a sudden Detroit, with their kind of like long term outlook, is all of a sudden looking pretty attractive for some free agents.
Yeah, and comparing Yzerman to Ken Holland, and one example that I can use is that you look at Steve Yzerman and you watch his press conferences, right? Like he's very slow with answering questions that the media asks him, right? Like he sits there and actually thinks about what he's going to say before he says it, right? And he almost kind of asks a question within the question, right? Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the example that I'm going to use, you look at Ken Holland when he traded for not Seabrook, who was the defenseman from Chicago, Duncan Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Remember that and in the press conference, like why'd you feel like that you had to give up something for Duncan Keith when his contract was so and so for so and so? He's like, well, do you want me to get him for free? And it's like, dude, like, what? Like, yeah, you probably could have gotten him for free.
Probably.
So basically, what I'm trying to get at is that Yzerman just knows how to talk to people, whereas Ken
Mm-hmm.
Holland strikes me as someone who is just so old school and kind of dead set in his ways that he kind of breaks down and gives in a little bit easier than what Yzerman does. Yzerman plays the hardball, right? And he's definitely like the greasy car salesman that you actually love because he's not going to do you a little dirty, but he's still going to kind of rip you off a little bit, right? I mean, Alex DeBrincat, like I just said, if it were Ken Holland, it would have been an 8 by 10, 8 years, $10 million, right? Good for Alex DeBrincat, bad for the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Steve Yzerman, now you're getting Alex DeBrincat for 4 by 7 point whatever the hell it was, $7.8 million.
7.8, 7.85, I think.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
like that. So, and that's just the comparison that I'm gonna make with it. And, it I don't even know how to go even further with this because now it's got my blood boiling on how bad that Ken Holland
Well,
truly just ruined this team.
I think the main difference between when Ken Holland is making free agent signings or trades or extensions or whatever, and like the difference between him and Steve Yzerman is Yzerman will pretty much grind down the other party until he gets what he wants. Ken Holland kind of strikes me as a guy who's like if I don't give this player exactly what he wants, then he's not going to sign here and he's going
Yes.
to choose
Yeah.
somewhere else. So I have to overpay him and give him a bad deal because it's what he wants. Whereas Yzerman is like, you know what? If you really want to come here, prove it. Take a pay cut, take a shorter term deal, and prove you want to be here. And if you don't really want to
Yeah.
be here, I'm not going to give you what you want because this isn't going to work for both of us.
Correct.
So Yzerman
Yeah.
is definitely the kind of guy. I guess what I'm trying to say is Yzerman will play hardball and really, really try to get a guy that he wants for what Yzerman thinks is fair. Whereas Ken Holland will be like a deer in the headlights. He'll be like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, no! Please don't leave. We really need you here." Okay, fine. You can have 8 years by $9.5 million, Darnell Nurse. Don't worry about it. You can stay here for the rest of your career. That's kind of
Yeah.
like the main difference between the two of them.
And that's a really good example, the Darnell Nurse signing. I mean, granted, like it's tough to get really good players in free agency, right? And this isn't a knock on Darnell Nurse, but like that contract, I just thought that was a lot. Like Ken Holland just really loves to get the maximum deals out, right? Like where he just doesn't understand that like you can sign players for 3 to 5 year deals. You don't always have to give them the 7 to 8, right? Like you don't have to do that. Granted that they might leave, but in the understanding that what other team are they going to go to that can actually give them that? I mean, the other way that you look at it
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah, he can go to another team on a 1 to 2 year deal and kind of take a little bit of a pay cut to go win a cup somewhere. But an 8 by 9, whatever the hell amount that he got, that's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Mm-hmm.
It's just bad general management. And and you have to start questioning too, like the people surround that Ken Holland surrounds himself with. What, like, why does he keep doing this? And why does he keep
Who knows?
doing it with other teams? Like, why did he do it with the Red Wings? Why does he keep doing this with other teams? It's just really bad general management as a whole, in general. And so, going back to the original topic, I believe that the rebuild should have started after they drafted Lil Narkin. And you're saying the year after that,
I'm gonna
2015?
say like the last year of the streak, 15, 16, where it was pretty clear that like they didn't even get in through their own volition. I think they should have looked at that and said, you know what, it's 25 years now. We got lucky. We don't see in the recent future us getting into the playoffs and making noise. I think after that year, they should have said, you know what, 25 years is long enough. Let's just strip it all down. Because I remember that like that following year, I think that's when the Abdicator extension got signed and Eriksson and Nielsen. We didn't even mention Nielsen. I think that's when all those got signed because Ken Holland was kind of panicking and just saying like,
Needed
"Oh
to do
God,
some.
we got to keep you guys so we can keep making the playoffs." And it's like, no, you got to move on to the next era. You're about to lose Zetterberg. You already lost Lidstrom and Datsuk. Just, you know, you had happy memories. You had 2 cup finals appearances, 1 cup win. You got what you needed from them.
Yeah.
So at that point, I would have just said, you know what? Um, Even if we suck for the next 10 years, which Ken Holland's reason for not doing a rebuild was it takes 10 years. That's the whole reason he didn't want to do it, and that's just flawed logic from the get go because you
Yeah.
made the playoffs for 25 years. Who cares if you suck for the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years? You always have that to look back on. And guess what? Once you're done with that, whatever, 10-year long rebuild, maybe you start another streak because you're all of a sudden an elite team because you rebuilt properly. So, yeah, that was his whole reason for not doing it, is it takes 10 years, which that should have been his reason to do it because, sure, we suck for 10 years, but then we're a good team after. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just not good logic, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, buddy. And I think that this is a good stopping point. I mean, we this is something that we can go on forever. We can make this into a 3 day
We
episode, honestly.
genuinely
We
could,
really
yeah.
could. But we would love to hear from you guys. Let us know when you guys think that the rebuild should have started and where the Ken Holland era just kind of started to flop a little bit. Should have started right after they won and lost in the finals to the Pittsburgh Penguins going back to back in 08, 09. Should have started when Larkin was drafted. Should have started when they barely just made it due to little push in the cushion due to Boston and Florida. Let us know in the comments. We would love to hear from you guys. But I think that's about wraps it up, Matt. let's go ahead and enter into our final thoughts. Go ahead, buddy.
I really miss hockey and I want it to come back. Um, and also I'm excited for Lions season, I guess. I know it's a hockey
No,
podcast, but I'm excited for the Lions. I just read that the Lions sold out season tickets for the first time in like, I don't even know, like 15 or
ever,
20 years.
ever. Let's
Oh,
just
it
say
was
ever.
ever. Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
just say that.
So that's freaking insane. Like I
Yeah.
actually can't even believe that happened. It's kind of scary, this level of hype around the Lions, because we've never done anything. Like literally, they won a playoff game the year before I was born, I think. So yeah, it's very scary because we haven't really seen this. I mean, we haven't even seen this when Stafford was on the team. So it's very much uncharted territory. But I won't lie, it's got me super hyped for next season.
Yeah, my final thoughts are I'm excited for sports to be on every day again. So hopefully football season comes sooner rather than later. It feels like it's still far away, whether that's college football, U of M. I'm not a state guy. I'm sorry if you're a state fan. Uh, we can be friends, I guess. I don't know, but don't bring any of that puke green garbage shit over here, please. I'm not a fan of that. I mean, you can call me piss gold. I don't really care. Yeah, I like it. It's all mine. Lions, yeah, I'm excited for the Lions. They, top offense for sure. Not in the whole entire league,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that they have a top five, so I'm excited for that. I'm really just excited for hockey in general. I really do miss it.
Yeah.
I'm wearing my Red Wings tank top just because, I just miss it so much, and I'm hugging myself right now because I love my Red Wings. I also love my puppy dogs. I love you, Matt. I love you, Derek. Um,
Shout out Derek.
yeah, shout out Derek. Hope the wedding went well, buddy. He's not the one getting married, by the way. Yeah, I think I mentioned that at the start. Other than that, I think those are my final thoughts. Go Red Wings, go Lions, go Tigers, not the Bears. We hate you.
Never the Bears. Never the Packers. I hope the
Never the
Packers go 0
Packers.
17.
No, even though Derek just, you know what? I'm not even going to say anything. Okay,
I could
never
throw a
mind.
ball farther than Jordan Love.
All right. That about wraps it up. So once again, thank y'all for joining us on another episode of Hockeytown University. For those of you that are new, make sure that you are subscribing and make sure that you are hitting that like button and then you are rating us 5 stars on Spotify. And once again, thanks for joining us. We definitely appreciate it. We love y'all. We miss y'all. We can't wait to get back to 2 episodes a week so that way we can have more entertaining topics. But let us know in the comments on what you guys think about our episodes. Let us know what you guys would like for us to talk about next episode. We'd love to hear ideas from you guys, the viewers, the listeners, however you guys are watching and listening to us. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, Matt. Until next time, we'll see y'all next weekend. Goodbye.
Bye bye.